The 20-year-old alien queen was saved by a human, and she couldn't stop thanking High Deathworld Liege. The sun of Vayara Prime hung low in the sky, casting a soft golden light over the jagged landscape. The planet was known throughout the galaxy as a death world, a place where only the strongest could survive. Its terrain was treacherous, filled with sharp rocks, sudden drop-offs, and forests that were home to predators capable of killing even a seasoned warrior in seconds. It was a harsh world, but it was home to Queen Lysera, the youngest ruler the planet had ever known. At only 20 years old, she had inherited the throne after a sudden plague claimed the lives of most of her family. Lysera had always known the responsibilities of a queen were heavy, but she had never imagined how lonely they could feel. She spent her days in the palace, surrounded by advisors and guards, yet she often felt the weight of isolation pressing down on her. Her advisors were competent, but they treated her youth as a weakness, constantly questioning her decisions. Even the soldiers, trained to follow her orders, seemed to doubt her capabilities. She longed for someone who could see her for more than just her title. It was on one of these days, as she rode in her hovercraft across the jagged plains near the outer settlements, that her life took an unexpected turn. The hovercraft hummed steadily beneath her, gliding over the uneven terrain. Her long silver hair flowed behind her like a banner, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of trouble. The settlements on Vayara Prime were small and scattered, and she personally oversaw the safety of her people. It was a dangerous task, but Lysera felt it was her duty. Suddenly, her sensors picked up movement in the valley below. It was subtle at first, but enough to make her alert. She leaned forward, trying to see through the thick dust that swirled in the air. There, among the rocks and the sparse trees, a shadow moved with incredible speed. Lysera's heart skipped a beat as she realized what it was, a predator, one of the planet's deadliest hunters. She instructed her guards to prepare for defense, but before they could react, the predator struck. It leapt with terrifying speed, shattering part of the hovercraft's shields and sending the vehicle spinning. Lysera barely held on as the craft crashed onto the rocky ground, smoke and sparks filling the air. Her guards were thrown aside, groaning and injured. Lysera herself was pinned beneath part of the wreckage, her leg twisted painfully. The predator growled, circling, waiting for the opportune moment to attack again. Fear surged through her, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had trained for survival, yet the reality of being alone in the death world with a lethal predator was overwhelming. She tried to move, but her leg refused to cooperate. The predator closed in, its eyes glowing in the dim light, its fangs bared. Lysera's breath caught in her throat. Just as the creature lunged, a figure appeared seemingly out of nowhere. A human, clad in rugged survival gear, landed in front of her with astonishing speed. In one fluid motion, he raised a compact energy weapon and fired, sending the predator skidding back with a yelp of pain. Lysera could hardly believe her eyes. Humans were rare visitors to Vayara Prime, and they were often seen as reckless and untrustworthy. Yet here was one, stepping into danger without hesitation to save her. The human, his name was Ronan, moved with confidence and precision. He assessed the environment, scanning for other potential threats, and then turned his attention to the hovercraft wreckage. Within moments, he had cleared the debris enough to free Lysera. She tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. Words felt inadequate. Instead, she simply stared at him, her eyes wide with disbelief and gratitude. Ronan helped her to her feet, supporting her weight as she limped to a safer spot. "You're lucky," he said calmly, his voice steady and reassuring. "That predator doesn't usually miss." Lysera nodded, still too stunned to speak. Her mind was racing, trying to process everything that had just happened. Here was a human, a being from a species she had been taught to regard with caution, standing before her as a savior. She had no words to express the depth of her gratitude. The journey back to the palace was tense. Lysera relied on Ronan to navigate the treacherous terrain. He moved with ease, avoiding unstable rocks and sudden drops, guiding her safely through the forested areas where other predators might lurk. Along the way, he spoke little, but his presence was reassuring. Lysera, who was used to issuing orders, found herself in the unfamiliar position of being led, of trusting someone entirely. When they finally approached the palace gates, Lysera could see the concern etched on the faces of her guards. They had assumed she would be lost to the wilderness or worse. The sight of her returning with a human by her side caused a stir among the palace staff. Whispers spread quickly. Who was this human? Why was the queen allowing him to enter the palace? Lysera ignored the whispers. She focused on Ronan, her heart still racing from the encounter. "Thank you," she managed to say softly, her voice trembling slightly. I don't know how to repay you." Ronan shrugged, a small, almost shy smile on his face. "Just stay alive, that's enough for me." Her advisors were less impressed. They approached cautiously, their expressions a mixture of skepticism and disapproval. "Your Majesty," one of them said, "this human, he is untested and unproven. We cannot allow him such proximity." Lysera's eyes flashed with determination. "He saved my life," she said firmly. "That alone proves more than any of your arguments ever could." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. They were not used to being challenged, especially not by a queen so young. But Lysera stood her ground, her posture radiating authority despite her exhaustion. She had survived a death-world predator because of him, and she refused to dismiss that truth. That night, in the privacy of her chambers, Lysera reflected on the day's events. She had always known humans were different, but she had never realized just how remarkable they could be. Ronan's courage, his calm in the face of danger, and his skill in navigating the death world had left a lasting impression. She found herself thinking of him repeatedly, wondering how a being so different from her could have such an impact on her life. Sleep came fitfully. Lysera's mind was restless, filled with images of the predator, the crash, and the human who had appeared when all hope seemed lost. She dreamed of the rugged terrain, of danger lurking in every shadow, and of a presence beside her, guiding and protecting. When she woke, the memory of Ronan's calm face and steady hands was the first thing she saw. As she prepared for the day, Lysera made a decision. She would not ignore the human who had saved her. She would learn more about him, understand his skills, and see if perhaps there was a way for humans and her people to work together. The idea was unconventional, even dangerous, but she felt it was worth exploring. After all, he had saved her life, something no political decree or royal protocol could ever achieve. By mid-morning, Ronan was summoned to her chambers. He entered with the same quiet confidence, acknowledging the queen with a respectful nod. "You requested my presence," he said simply. Lysera studied him for a moment. "Yes," she replied. "I wish to understand your methods. The way you handled the predator, it was remarkable. I want to learn from you." Ronan's eyes lit up slightly. He had not expected such an invitation. "I can teach you survival skills," he said, "but it will be dangerous. You will have to trust me completely." Lysera nodded without hesitation. "I trust you," she said. The words felt heavier than they should, filled with sincerity and determination. In that moment, a bond began to form, one that would not be easily broken. The first day of lessons began in the palace gardens, a controlled environment where Lysera could learn without the immediate threat of predators. Ronan showed her how to read the terrain, how to identify signs of danger, and how to move silently through challenging environments. He demonstrated techniques for quick thinking and improvisation, skills that were second nature to him but foreign to the young queen. Lysera absorbed every lesson, her mind sharp and eager. She realized that, while her people relied heavily on technology, humans had developed methods of survival that required ingenuity and adaptability. She found herself admiring not only his skill but his patience in teaching her, correcting her mistakes gently and encouraging her to keep trying. As the day drew to a close, Lysera felt a sense of accomplishment. She had learned more in a single day than she had in years of palace training. And more importantly, she had begun to see humans in a new light, not as unpredictable outsiders, but as beings capable of courage, intelligence, and loyalty. That evening, as she gazed out over the Deathworld plains, Lysera felt a strange sense of hope. The dangers of Vayara Prime were still very real, and her responsibilities as queen were heavier than ever. But for the first time, she did not feel alone. She had found an ally in a human, someone who had proven that even in the harshest world, bravery and loyalty could shine through. And deep down, she knew that this was only the beginning of a story that would change her life and the fate of her planet forever. The morning sun rose over Vayara Prime, casting long shadows across the palace gardens. Queen Lysera stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the jagged plains. Her thoughts drifted back to the day Ronan had saved her life. The memory of his calm face, his steady hands, and his fearless presence made her chest tighten with gratitude. She had promised herself she would not waste the opportunity to learn from him, and today she intended to keep that promise. Ronan had already arrived, standing near the training area with his survival gear neatly arranged. He looked out over the wilderness with the same quiet confidence that had drawn Lysera's attention in the first place. When he turned to see her approaching, a small smile appeared on his face. "You're ready," he said simply. Lysera nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "I want to learn everything you can teach me about survival in the death world," she said. "Not just for myself, but for my people. We need to be prepared." Ronan gestured toward the rocky terrain beyond the gardens. "Then we start with the basics," he said, "reading the land, understanding where danger hides, and most importantly, learning to anticipate it before it finds you." For hours, they moved across the rocky outcrops and small forests that bordered the palace grounds. Ronan pointed out subtle signs of life. A broken branch where a predator had passed, tracks in the soft soil, the distant call of a creature hidden in the trees. Lysera listened intently, absorbing every detail. She realized that the death world was not just dangerous, it was alive, constantly testing anyone who dared to walk its surface. At one point, Ronan stopped and crouched beside a patch of dirt. "See these marks?" he asked. Lysera leaned closer, studying the ground. Tiny claw prints led to a dense thicket. "A predator passed through here recently," Ronan explained. "Not one of the largest, but fast and clever. If you don't notice them, they can ambush you in seconds." Lysera's eyes widened. "Even with the palace guards, we could be caught off guard," she asked. "Exactly," Ronan replied. "You need to think like them, move like them, and stay ahead of them. That's how you survive." They continued their training, practicing stealth, quick thinking, and improvisation. Lysera found herself making mistakes, stumbling over rocks, misreading tracks, and underestimating the speed of even the smallest predator. Each time, Ronan guided her patiently, correcting her movements without judgment. His calm demeanor gave her confidence, and she began to notice improvements in her own instincts. As the sun reached its highest point, a shadow fell across them. Lysera looked up to see a group of palace guards approaching, their faces a mixture of concern and curiosity. They had been sent to ensure the queen's safety, but their eyes widened when they saw Ronan leading her through the rough terrain. Whispers spread among them. Who was this human, and why was he allowed to teach the queen? Lysera ignored the whispers. She had made her choice. She trusted Ronan, and she would not let anyone's doubts interfere with her lessons. "Keep your distance unless I call you," she instructed the guards. "This is my learning time." The guards hesitated, exchanging uneasy glances, but they obeyed. Lysera turned back to Ronan, determination in her gaze. "Continue," she said. "I am ready." Ronan nodded and led her deeper into the wilderness. They came upon a narrow ravine, its sides jagged and treacherous. "This is a test," he said. "You need to cross safely without alerting anything that might be nearby." Lysera carefully placed her feet, testing the stability of each rock before moving. Ronan walked beside her, pointing out weak spots and hidden hazards. Halfway across, a sudden noise made her heart leap. A small predator darted across the ravine, its eyes gleaming. Lysera froze, her instincts screaming to panic. "Breathe," Ronan whispered. "Move slowly, don't let fear control you." Following his guidance, Lysera adjusted her steps, keeping her movements calm and deliberate. The predator passed without noticing them. She exhaled, her hands trembling slightly. I did it," she said, astonished at her own composure. "You did," Ronan replied with a small smile. "And that's progress. You're learning to control your fear instead of letting it control you." As they continued, Lysera realized that survival was not just about strength or weapons. It was about observation, patience, and understanding the world around her. She began to see the death world differently. It was not merely a place of danger. It was a teacher, offering lessons to those willing to pay attention. By mid-afternoon, they returned to the palace grounds. Lysera was exhausted but exhilarated. Her muscles ached, her clothes were dirt-stained, but her mind was sharp and alert. She had learned more in a single day than she had in years of formal training. Ronan noticed her expression. "You're improving faster than I expected," he said. "Your instincts are strong and your determination is impressive." Lysera smiled, a mix of pride and relief. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted. "You've taught me more than I ever thought possible." Ronan shrugged modestly. "You did the work, I only guided you." The interaction drew attention from the palace court. Rumors spread that the queen was spending significant time with a human. Some advisors were skeptical, warning that humans could not be trusted and that this relationship could compromise the throne. Others, however, began to see the value in Lysera's training. A human who could survive the death world and teach their queen might be a unique asset. Later that evening, Lysera called Ronan to her private chambers. She wanted to express her gratitude more fully. "I do not know how to repay you for saving my life," she said, "but I want to learn everything you can teach me, not just for myself but for my people. If I can survive this world better, we can all be stronger." Ronan nodded, accepting her words without hesitation. "Then we continue. Tomorrow we move beyond the palace grounds. There's much more to learn out there, and the death world doesn't forgive mistakes." Lysera felt a thrill at his words. The idea of venturing further into the wilderness, facing real danger under his guidance, filled her with anticipation. She realized that her perception of humans had changed. They were not reckless outsiders. They were resourceful, brave, and capable of incredible skill. The next morning they set out again. This time they ventured deeper into the death world, where the terrain was harsher and the threats more unpredictable. Ronan taught her to read the wind, to notice subtle shifts in the foliage, and to understand the habits of the predators that roam these lands. He showed her how to craft simple tools from natural resources, how to create traps, and how to move silently without leaving a trace. Lysera struggled at first, her alien physiology making some techniques unfamiliar. But Ronan was patient, adjusting his lessons to suit her strengths. Over time, she began to move with confidence, her actions more fluid, her mind more alert. She realized that her people had relied too heavily on technology, while humans had developed methods of survival that relied on observation, adaptability, and quick thinking. During one excursion, they encountered a small predator, not much larger than a human dog but incredibly fast and aggressive. Lysera froze, but Ronan's calm voice guided her. "Focus. Don't panic. Watch its movements, anticipate its attack." Following his instructions, Lysera dodged the creature's lunge, using a nearby rock to block its path. She felt a surge of triumph as the predator retreated, realizing that she had begun to internalize the lessons Ronan had been teaching her. When they returned to the palace that evening, Lysera's confidence had grown noticeably. She addressed her council with renewed authority, demonstrating new strategies for defense and survival that incorporated the human techniques she had learned. Some advisors were impressed, while others remained skeptical, but Lysera paid them little mind. She had found an ally in Ronan, and his knowledge had changed the way she viewed her own abilities. That night, as Lysera prepared for rest, she found herself thinking of Ronan again. He had not only saved her life but had opened her eyes to a new way of thinking, a new way of surviving and leading. She felt a deep sense of gratitude and a quiet hope that perhaps this human might be more than just a teacher. Perhaps he could become a trusted partner, someone who would stand by her side as she navigated the challenges of ruling a death world. She drifted to sleep with a sense of purpose. The lessons of the day had been hard and demanding, but they had also been enlightening. She realized that leadership was not about commanding others alone. It was about learning, adapting, and growing stronger through experience. And with Ronan at her side, she felt ready to face whatever the death world and the galaxy might throw at her. As the moon rose over the jagged plains, Lysera's mind was filled with possibilities. The bond she was forming with Ronan was unusual, perhaps even controversial, but she did not care. He had proven his loyalty, his courage, and his skill. And most importantly, he had saved her life. The young queen of Vayara Prime was no longer just a ruler in name. She was becoming a leader capable of learning, adapting, and surviving, even in the deadliest world known to the galaxy. And her journey, with a human by her side, was only beginning. The morning on Vayara Prime was cold and sharp, the winds carrying the scent of metal and dust from distant mountain ranges. Queen Lysera awoke with determination, her mind already replaying the lessons she had learned from Ronan. She could feel the muscles in her legs and arms tightening from yesterday's exercises, a welcome reminder of how much she was improving. Ronan had already prepared the supplies for the day. He had arranged a small pack of essentials, water, rations, simple tools, and compact energy weapons, in case they encountered any predators or environmental hazards. Lysera stood silently, watching him work. She realized she was learning more than just survival skills. She was learning patience, discipline, and the quiet confidence that came from experience. Today, we move beyond the palace territory, Ronan said, adjusting the straps of his pack. There are areas no one has traveled in years. Dangerous, yes, but full of lessons. You will see how the death world changes when you leave the safety of familiar paths. Lysera nodded. The thought of venturing into unknown regions of her own planet excited her. The palace grounds were safe, controlled, and predictable, but the wilderness beyond was alive. It demanded awareness, cunning, and courage. They set off, moving cautiously over jagged rocks and through sparse forests. Ronan pointed out the subtle signs of movement: broken branches, shifted stones, and animal tracks that were almost invisible to an untrained eye. Lysera followed closely, her eyes scanning every inch of the terrain, her senses alive with awareness. As they descended into a narrow canyon, a sudden roar echoed through the cliffs. Lysera froze, instinctively gripping Ronan's arm. "What is that?" she whispered. Ronan's eyes narrowed as he scanned the canyon. "A large predator," he said calmly. "It's likely watching us from above. Stay close and follow my movements." Lysera's heart raced. She had faced predators before, but the roar had been louder, more menacing than anything she had heard. Her instincts screamed to run, but she forced herself to remain still, trusting Ronan's guidance. The predator leapt from a high ledge, landing with a thunderous crash on the rocks below. Lysera felt the ground shake under her feet. Ronan reacted instantly, tossing a small device that emitted a blinding light. The creature recoiled, its roar turning into a frustrated snarl. Lysera followed his lead, moving behind a rock for cover. "This is what I mean," Ronan said. "The death world doesn't attack blindly. It tests you. You need to observe, respond, and adapt quickly. Panic will kill you faster than anything else." Lysera's chest pounded, but she focused. She watched the predator's movements, noticing the way it shifted its weight, the subtle clues that indicated when it would strike. When it lunged again, she sidestepped instinctively, a move she had learned from Ronan's earlier training. The predator missed, and Ronan acted, leading it away from their path with calculated precision. After the encounter, they continued through the canyon, Lysera's confidence growing with each step. She realized that fear was not something to be eliminated. It was a tool, a warning signal that, when managed, could enhance her awareness and reaction. By midday, they reached a dense forest that had been untouched for decades. The trees were enormous, their roots twisting over rocks and fallen logs. The air was thick with humidity and the scent of decaying leaves. This was the true death world, raw and untamed, and Lysera felt a thrill of excitement mixed with caution. "Here," Ronan said, kneeling beside a small stream, "we practice resource gathering. You need to know what is safe to eat, how to purify water, and how to create shelter if needed." Lysera followed his instructions, collecting edible plants and testing water from the stream using a simple filtration technique he had taught her. She marveled at the simplicity and effectiveness of human methods, realizing that while her people relied heavily on technology, these survival skills were adaptable and reliable even in the harshest conditions. As they worked, a sudden rustle in the bushes caught her attention. Lysera froze, recognizing the pattern of movement from previous lessons. A small pack of predators emerged, circling cautiously. Ronan gestured for her to remain still. "Watch them," he whispered. "Learn from them. They are testing you, not just attacking. They want to see if you are a threat." Lysera observed the predators carefully, noting their communication and coordination. When one of them darted toward her, she remembered Ronan's training. She moved calmly, positioning herself behind a tree and using the environment to her advantage. The predators hesitated, confused by her composure, and eventually retreated. "You handled that perfectly," Ronan said, his tone filled with genuine praise. "You're starting to think like the death world, not like someone afraid of it." Lysera felt a surge of pride. She was learning to adapt, to survive, and to see the world as it was, not as she had feared it. She realized that this knowledge was more than just survival, it was empowerment. As they continued deeper into the forest, they discovered a hidden ravine with a small pool of water at the bottom. The pool glimmered in the sunlight, surrounded by strange, bioluminescent plants. Lysera had never seen anything like it. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Ronan nodded. "Places like this exist all over the death world. Few have the skills to find them. These are safe havens, resources that can sustain life if you know where to look." Lysera knelt beside the pool, taking in the serenity of the hidden location. For a moment, she forgot about danger, about the responsibilities of ruling, and about the predator-filled world around her. It was a rare moment of peace, and she cherished it. Suddenly, a loud noise shattered the tranquility. A group of alien mercenaries, seeking to take advantage of the queen's youth and inexperience, had tracked her movements. They aimed to capture her and claim the throne for themselves. Lysera's heart raced as she realized the danger was immediate. Ronan acted quickly, positioning himself between her and the attackers. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "Trust what you've learned." Lysera nodded, her hands gripping the small tools she had crafted earlier. She followed his instructions, using her new skills to move silently, avoid traps, and anticipate the mercenaries' attacks. Ronan coordinated their movements, taking out threats with precision while guiding her to safety. They fought their way through the forest, using the terrain to their advantage. Lysera realized that this was more than a test of survival. It was a real battle, and she was applying everything she had learned. Her confidence grew with each step, her fear replaced by focus and determination. Finally, they reached a safe clearing where they could catch their breath. Lysera's chest heaved with exertion, her clothes torn and stained from the skirmish, but her eyes shone with triumph. "We made it," she said, disbelief and relief in her voice. Ronan smiled, a mixture of pride and admiration in his gaze. "You didn't just survive," he said. "You adapted, you thought, you acted, and you grew stronger. That is what the death world demands." Lysera felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for Ronan's guidance, but for the opportunity to discover her own strength. She realized that leadership was not just about giving orders or relying on advisors. It was about learning, adapting, and taking responsibility in the face of danger. As they returned to the palace, Lysera's mind was alive with new ideas. She began to consider how she could implement what she had learned for the benefit of her people. Her guards and advisors watched in amazement as she demonstrated new strategies for defense and survival, blending human ingenuity with alien technology. Some were skeptical, but many were impressed, recognizing the value of these lessons. That evening, Lysera invited Ronan to her chambers once again. She wanted to express her thanks properly and to discuss what they had learned during the day. "I never realized how much we were missing," she said. "Your methods, your thinking, it changes everything. I can see a future where our people are stronger, safer, and more capable." Ronan nodded. "It's not just about surviving," he said. "It's about understanding the world, making smart choices, and being ready for anything. You have the mind for it, you just needed to see it in action." Lysera smiled, feeling a bond growing between them. It was more than gratitude, it was respect, trust, and admiration. She had found an ally in a human, someone who had not only saved her life but had shown her how to become a stronger queen. As she lay in bed that night, she reflected on the day's events. She had faced real danger, learned valuable lessons, and begun to see her own potential. And through it all, Ronan had been there, guiding her, teaching her, and inspiring her to grow. For the first time, Lysera felt truly capable. She was no longer just a young queen struggling to command her people. She was a leader in the making, ready to face the challenges of the death world and beyond. And with Ronan at her side, she knew she could accomplish far more than she had ever imagined. The stars above Veyara Prime twinkled like distant eyes watching over them, and Lysera felt a quiet determination settle within her. She had survived the death world, learned from a human, and discovered strength she did not know she possessed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she was ready. The journey was far from over, and she welcomed it with open eyes and an unshakable resolve. The sun rose over Veyara Prime like a warning, painting the jagged cliffs and endless plains with shades of orange and gold. Queen Lysera stood on the highest balcony of her palace, her eyes scanning the horizon. The peaceful dawn was deceptive, for she knew the galaxy was rarely quiet. Her mind raced with possibilities, preparing for the threats that could arrive at any moment. Ronan was already on the training grounds, going through tactical exercises with the palace guards. His movements were precise, every action designed to teach efficiency, strategy, and quick thinking. Lysera watched him from above, admiring how effortlessly he commanded respect. Even without royal authority, the human skill inspired confidence among her soldiers. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden alert from the palace sensors. An alien fleet had entered Veyara's system. Their markings were familiar, mercenaries allied with rival planetary factions. The message was clear. The young queen of Veyara Prime was a target. Lysera's heart pounded, but she did not panic. She had learned to control fear, to convert it into focus. She turned to Ronan, who had also noticed the alert. "This is it," she said calmly. "Are we ready?" Ronan nodded. "We've prepared for this. Stay close to me, follow my instructions, and we'll give them a fight they won't forget." The palace council erupted in discussion, some panicked, others skeptical. "Your Majesty," one advisor said, "we should evacuate, the fleet outnumbers us. Resistance is futile." Lysera's gaze was steady, unwavering. "No," she said firmly, "we fight. Not because we are fearless, but because we are prepared. And we have allies who know this world better than anyone else." The alien fleet appeared on the horizon, dark ships casting shadows over the plains below. Their weapons glowed ominously, ready to strike. The palace defenses activated, shields humming to life and energy turrets aligning to target incoming vessels. Lysera felt the familiar tension in her chest, the pressure of responsibility pressing down. Yet she also felt a spark of confidence, fueled by the knowledge she had gained from Ronan. Ronan moved through the palace like a shadow, positioning guards, setting traps, and coordinating defense strategies. He combined human tactics with Veyara technology, creating a hybrid approach that maximized efficiency and surprise. Lysera followed his lead, her mind sharp, issuing orders to units and adjusting plans based on the evolving situation. The first wave of enemy ships arrived, skimming low over the plains and firing energy blasts at the palace. The shields absorbed much of the impact, but some turrets were damaged, and debris rained down. Lysera's soldiers panicked at first, but the sight of Ronan calmly directing reinforcements and counterattacks steadied them. Lysera herself felt the surge of adrenaline, her training kicking in. She moved from station to station, observing, learning, and acting. Her experience in the Deathworld wilderness had taught her to anticipate danger, to read patterns, and to act decisively. She applied these lessons now on a much larger scale, commanding her forces with precision. During the battle, a group of enemy forces managed to breach the palace perimeter, moving stealthily through underground tunnels. Lysera and Ronan led a small team to intercept them. They moved silently, using shadows and natural cover to approach the invaders. "Remember what we practiced," Ronan whispered. "Use the terrain, predict their movements, stay calm." Lysera nodded, her heart steady despite the danger. When the invaders appeared, she and Ronan struck in perfect coordination. She had learned to read body language, to anticipate attacks, and to react instinctively. Together, they neutralized the threat without unnecessary risk, showcasing their combined strategy and skill. Back at the main battlefield, the enemy fleet intensified their assault. Lysera directed the palace defenses, integrating Ronan's advice with her own instincts. They anticipated the attacker's strategies, countering their moves with agility and precision. Every turret, every patrol, every defensive measure was executed flawlessly, turning what could have been a catastrophic attack into a controlled engagement. The enemy fleet, confused by the unexpected tactics, began to retreat. Lysera and Ronan pressed their advantage, targeting key vessels with precise strikes. The combined efforts of human ingenuity and Veyara technology proved overwhelming. By late afternoon, the alien ships were either destroyed or in full retreat. The palace and its people were safe, for now. After the battle, the palace grounds were quiet except for the sounds of repair drones and exhausted soldiers. Lysera walked through the aftermath, surveying the damage and checking on her people. Despite the exhaustion, she felt a deep sense of pride. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. She found Ronan standing atop a small hill, watching the horizon. "You did it," she said, approaching him. "We did it." Ronan turned, his expression calm but satisfied. "Yes, you did most of it. You made decisions, adapted quickly, and led your people. I only guided." Lysera shook her head. "You guided, yes, but without you we wouldn't have survived. You showed us how to think differently, how to act with precision. I can't thank you enough." Ronan smiled faintly, but his eyes betrayed the satisfaction of seeing his teachings applied successfully. "You earned it," he said. "Every choice, every action, this victory is yours." Word of their triumph spread quickly throughout the palace and beyond. Lysira's council, initially skeptical of Ronan, now recognized the value of his guidance. The young queen had proven herself, not just as a survivor, but as a leader capable of making critical decisions under pressure. The story of a human helping the Queen of Vayara Prime in a decisive battle began to circulate among neighboring planets, earning attention and respect. That evening, Lysira requested a private audience with Ronan. She wanted to reflect on the events of the day and plan for the future. "The galaxy will notice our victory," she said, her voice thoughtful. "But we cannot rely on luck. We must be prepared for what comes next." Ronan nodded, his expression serious. "Agreed. We've proven that humans and your people can work together, but threats will continue to rise. We need to continue training, building strategies, and strengthening your forces." Lysira felt a sense of determination settle within her. The lessons of the Death World, combined with Ronan's guidance, had transformed her. She was no longer a young, inexperienced queen. She was a leader ready to face the galaxy's challenges. Over the next few days, Lysira and Ronan focused on fortifying the palace defenses, training soldiers, and improving communication systems. Lysira applied everything she had learned in the wilderness, adapting human strategies to alien technology. Her people began to notice the change in her demeanor, the confidence, the decisiveness, the ability to lead without hesitation. The council, once doubtful, began to respect her decisions. They saw that the combination of her instincts, her people's technology, and Ronan's guidance created a force that could withstand even the deadliest threats. Lysira's repeated expressions of gratitude toward Ronan also impressed many. Though unusual, they revealed a deep understanding of loyalty and the importance of recognizing allies. One evening, as the twin moons of Vayara Prime rose over the palace, Lysira and Ronan walked along the outer walls, overlooking the plains. "Do you ever regret leaving your world?" Lysira asked softly. Ronan shook his head. "No. I didn't expect to find this partnership, this opportunity to make a difference. You've taught me a lot as well, Lysira. Humans are good, but we are stronger when we work with others, when we learn from different ways of thinking. You've shown me that." Lysira smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "And you've saved my life more times than I can count. I will never forget it. I cannot stop thanking you." Ronan looked at her, his expression unreadable for a moment. Then he simply said, "You don't have to, just lead." "That's thanks enough." Lysira nodded, understanding the depth of his words. Gratitude was not just in words, it was in action. She would honor his guidance by becoming the strongest, most capable queen she could be. And together, they would ensure the survival and prosperity of Vayara Prime. As night settled over the palace, Lysira felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. The battle had been won, the lessons had been learned, and a bond had been forged, one that would shape the future of her planet. She had faced the Death World, faced political threats, and faced her own fears. And she had emerged stronger, guided by the courage and wisdom of a human who had risked everything to save her. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and challenges, but Lysira no longer felt afraid. She had allies, knowledge, and determination. And with Ronan by her side, she knew that together they could face whatever the universe sent their way. The dawn on Vayara Prime was brighter than usual, spilling golden light across the jagged cliffs and plains. Queen Lysira stood at the balcony of her palace, overlooking the horizon. The previous battle had tested her strength, her courage, and her leadership. But the galaxy was vast, and threats were never truly over. Today, she would face a challenge unlike any before. A transmission arrived from a distant system. The message was urgent. A coalition of alien factions, long jealous of Vayara Prime's resources and the young queen's rise, had united to strike. Unlike the previous mercenary attack, this was organized, large-scale, and coordinated. Lysera's chest tightened with tension, but fear no longer clouded her mind. She had learned to act decisively, to anticipate danger, and to trust those who had proven themselves. She turned to Ronan, who was examining tactical displays in the palace command room. His calm expression never wavered, even as the alerts grew more frequent. "They've learned from their previous failure," Lysera said quietly. "This will be harder," Ronan nodded. "Yes, but so have we. They underestimate your abilities and our preparation." "That will be their mistake." Lysera felt a surge of determination. The Death World had taught her resilience, and Ronan had taught her strategy. Together, they had formed a force that combined human ingenuity with Vayara technology and instinct. This battle would prove the culmination of everything she had learned. The enemy fleet appeared on the horizon, vast and menacing, their weapons glowing with destructive energy. Lysera issued orders to the palace defenses, integrating new strategies Ronan had suggested. Energy shields were reinforced, automated turrets positioned, and patrols sent to strategic points across the surrounding plains. Lysera's presence inspired confidence among her soldiers. They had witnessed her growth and the results of her collaboration with Ronan, and they trusted her leadership. Ronan joined her at the balcony, his eyes scanning the approaching fleet. "Remember, every move counts," he said. "We anticipate their strategy, we use the environment, and we fight smart. You don't have to be the strongest in a direct fight. You need to outthink them." Lysera nodded. "Then we begin." The battle started with a barrage of energy blasts from the alien fleet. Shields shimmered under the assault, absorbing some of the damage, but debris and energy sparks rained across the palace grounds. Soldiers moved with precision, responding to each alert with coordinated action. Lysera commanded from the heart of the palace, issuing instructions that combined her intuition with Ronan's tactical input. Amidst the chaos, Ronan moved to the ground, leading elite units to intercept enemy boarding parties. Lysera followed, determined to be where the action demanded her presence. She moved swiftly and decisively, using the lessons she had learned from the Death World. She anticipated enemy movements, avoided traps, and coordinated her units to create choke points, turning the attackers' numbers against them. At one point, a massive alien mech advanced toward the palace gates. Its size and weaponry dwarfed anything Lysera had encountered before. The soldiers froze, unsure how to handle it. Lysera's eyes met Ronan's, and in that silent exchange a plan formed. "Use the terrain," Ronan said. "Lead it into the canyon. Its size is a disadvantage there." Lysera nodded and signaled the units to move strategically, guiding the mech toward the narrow canyon that flanked the palace. Using decoys, traps, and precise attacks, they forced the mech into the confined space. Its massive limbs struck the rocks, causing debris to collapse around it. The machine became trapped, vulnerable, and the soldiers moved in to disable it. The operation was risky, but it succeeded flawlessly, showcasing the combination of human ingenuity and Vayara adaptability. Meanwhile, the main battle raged across the plains. Lysera coordinated energy volleys from turrets, while Ronan led small strike teams to neutralize enemy units. The alien coalition had underestimated the Queen's ability to adapt and the humans' strategic mind. They were met with unexpected resistance at every turn. In the midst of the chaos, a message came through from one of the palace scouts. A group of high-ranking enemy commanders had landed near the royal vaults. If they succeeded, they could capture vital resources and even threaten the Queen directly. Lysera's mind raced. She had no time to wait for reinforcements. Ronan moved beside her. "We stop them now. No hesitation." They led a small strike team, moving stealthily through the debris-strewn landscape. Lysera felt the familiar tension of danger, the adrenaline that had once been fear now transformed into focus. She anticipated every step, her instincts honed by months of training and real battles. They reached the enemy commanders just as they attempted to breach the vaults. Lysera and Ronan struck with precision, disabling key threats before they could react. Lysera marveled at the efficiency of human-alien teamwork. Each movement, each decision, complemented the other perfectly. The enemy commanders were captured, their plans foiled, and the vaults remained secure. By the afternoon, the alien coalition began to retreat. Their strategy had failed, their forces diminished, and the strength of Vayara Prime's defense, and its queen, was undeniable. Lysera watched as the fleet withdrew beyond the horizon, feeling the weight of victory settle over her. Ronan approached her, his expression calm but proud. "You've done it, Lysera. You led your people, outsmarted a massive force, and secured the palace. They will think twice before challenging you again." Lysera's eyes shone with determination. "We did it," she corrected. "Together, your guidance and the lessons of the death world, they made this possible. I've never felt stronger, more capable." The victory sent ripples throughout the surrounding systems. Neighboring planets and factions recognized the strength of Vayara Prime under Lysera's leadership. They heard the stories of the human who had saved the queen and taught her to survive and lead. Respect and caution replaced doubt and envy. That evening, Lysera and Ronan stood on the palace balcony, looking over the plains now quiet and peaceful. The twin moons reflected softly in the rivers below, and the stars above seemed to watch in silent approval. "You've changed everything for your people," Ronan said quietly, "and for yourself. I knew you had the ability, but seeing it realized it's impressive." Lysera smiled. "You helped me realize it. I owe you more than I can express. I can't stop thanking you." Ronan shook his head. "You don't need to. Your strength, your courage, and your willingness to learn, that's thanks enough. Seeing you lead, it's reward enough." Lysera looked out at the horizon, a sense of calm and accomplishment settling over her. The galaxy was still full of threats and challenges, but she had learned that courage, intelligence, and collaboration could overcome even the deadliest odds. Humans were often underestimated, but Ronan had proven that their ingenuity, adaptability, and bravery could change the course of events in ways no technology alone could. In the days that followed, Lysera continued to lead her people, applying every lesson she had learned. The palace defenses were stronger, her soldiers more confident, and her council more respectful. The people of Vayara Prime looked to their queen not just as a figurehead, but as a capable, decisive, and courageous leader. Ronan remained by her side, a constant presence and advisor, but more than that, a friend and trusted ally. Together, they trained, strategized, and prepared for the future. Lysera realized that their partnership symbolized something greater, the potential of humans and aliens working together, combining strengths to create something neither could achieve alone. One evening, as the sun set behind the jagged mountains, Lysera reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She remembered the first day, trapped under the wreckage, facing death alone. She remembered the lessons learned in the wilderness, the trust built between human and queen, and the battles fought with intelligence and courage. Every step had led to this moment, a young queen of Vayara Prime, strong, respected, and capable, with a human who had saved her life and guided her to greatness standing beside her. Lysera turned to Ronan, her expression filled with gratitude and respect. "I will never forget what you've done for me, for my people, and for this planet. You changed everything." Ronan smiled, a rare warmth in his eyes. "And you've changed everything for yourself and your people. You led when it mattered most. You learned when you needed to. You inspired. That is more than anyone could ask for." The stars over Vayara Prime twinkled like distant witnesses to their victory. Lysera felt a quiet sense of pride and hope. The death world had tested her, the galaxy had challenged her, but she had grown stronger, wiser, and more capable than she had ever imagined. With Ronan by her side, she knew that the future of Vayara Prime was secure, not just through weapons or technology, but through intelligence, courage, and the unbreakable bond forged in the fires of survival. The young alien queen had survived, adapted, and led her people to triumph. And a human, brave and clever, had shown her the way. The journey was complete, but the story was far from over. Together, they would face the challenges of a galaxy filled with dangers and possibilities. And together, they would ensure that Vayara Prime and its people thrived under the leadership of a queen who had learned to see the universe not as a place of fear, but as a place of potential, adventure, and hope.